Indian aluminium producers are worried a lot that their competitiveness is being threatened in the domestic market. Namaste. The Aluminium Association of India has urged the Finance Ministry and the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade (DPIIT) to impose a 15% import duty on aluminium. It has asked them to safeguard the nation from an impending aluminium shortage, like the concerns around critical and rare minerals. Among other things, it has asked for measures to curb dumping of low-quality aluminium waste and imposition of quality standards on imported products. What exactly are the problems the domestic aluminium industry is facing? To enlighten us, we have with us Mr. Nikhil Raj. Welcome to Business Line's Trending Commodity Pick Show.
Thank you, sir, for having me here. As a development economist and having been working in the areas that looks at the macroeconomics aspect and also the trading aspects, you can see that the aluminium manufacturers and the industry is basically facing a triple whammy, if I could put it that way. When that is, one is around the global protectionism that we are facing. Surge of low-priced imports. And the third that I see is the high-cost disadvantages. Now, all that means that one is there is a triple burden on the Indian aluminium manufacturers to be competitive and to have a kind of a vision for long-term investments. I mean, if you look at it, over the last decade or so, there has been some expansion, and we have really expanded our capacity to nearly almost 4.2 million tons, and perhaps next to China. But the import bin, has also been crossing for us. When the last figures that I was looking at, it is in the order of roughly 75,000 crores or something. And this increase comes from the US raising tariffs on aluminium and its derivatives. The other one is that the EU market is also trying to effectively push the aluminium entering Europe towards the other countries, and India is one of those. And then there are other competitors also coming in. I mean, if you look at Southeast Asia, Indonesia is also backed by huge Chinese investments. So there are competitors taking place, emerging competitors, and where the cost of production is low, and then we are facing in the surge of protectionism. So our exports are not allowed to enter, and the Indian producers are facing high input cost. So even if, the total revenue increases, again, I mean, from a typical economic perspective, if the costs are high and those costs enter, whether it is the taxes, cesses, freights, electricity, the coal cess, it could be the logistics, effectively, it means that the manufacturers are at a triple disadvantage.
The Aluminium Association of India has raised fears of a shortage of critical minerals. Can we have your comments on this?
You see, sir, in terms of the critical minerals, if I can say, there are broadly 2 or 3 aspects, because countries have realized that critical minerals are important, and the including / if I could say, the rare earth elements. So they are protecting it and not allowing it to go outside. That's one. And there is an increasing demand. Which is faster than supply. This demand is likely to be doubling, or maybe, if not 3 times, but definitely more than double in another 20 years' time. If you have to produce a ton of aluminium, you require approximately 6 to 7 tons of oxide, 2 tons of alumina, and about 11 tons of coal. So these are also becoming important for any country to focus and conserve. That's one. So without new minings, new refinery capacity, infrastructure, I think the demand will continue to exceed the supply. That's one problem. The other is, if I look at it, is that there is a global race to secure these elements, the minerals, and in countries as far as Guinea, Indonesia, or even Australia. So, for example, for bauxite, there is a kind of a global race one can see. The third part, obviously, is the restrictions on raw material trade that are increasing worldwide. I mean, for example, the non-tariff barriers that we talk about, despite the WTO being there, the EU has its own waste shipment regulation, and which aims to restrict export of high-quality scrap to retain its domestic circular economy. And that's one example that this rise of protectionism. So what I answered to you, sir, in the previous question, the problems that they're facing. So it is a kind of a spiraling problem. It is a high cost. It is protectionism, high walls being raised, tariff walls being, non-tariff walls being raised.
Will the imposition of the 15% import duty as sought by the Aluminium Association of India and ensuring BIS quality of imports help?
I think any import duty is aimed at protecting the domestic industries. Even any country, for that matter, whether it is pre-WTO regime or post-WTO regime, even in India, where new economies start developing or some industries have to be allowed to be developed, we have the theories of infant industry argument that one raises the import duties. Now, to how much? Right, and that if there is a kind of a level playing field, if one could talk, if the 15% is the kind of benchmark, or for other industries, why not for the aluminium? I mean, this will at least help reduce the scrap that is coming out low priced, and this could be often the dumping, what we call in the international trade parlance, that could be restricted, that could be lowered down, which means that our domestic manufacturers get into the whole habit of and creating these downstream industries about segregation, so that the scrap therefore is available for the industries, and that supports. The other is a duty raise is also allowed to increase the production capacity. Because if there is no vision or a horizon whereby I, as an investor, cannot see that, okay, in the coming, let's say, 10 years timeline, there is a policy which allows me an inducement to invest. So this inducement to invest is likely to come when the tariffs are risen, because then it will lead to be able to, let's say, penetrate the existing markets, and allowing the dumped, lower priced inputs. So, I mean, clearly a duty correction appears to be a kind of a fair demand. And for a level playing field, right? If a typical car, mid-size, 10 lakhs cars is being talked about, an aluminium duty of, let's say, an increase, this would typically, how much does aluminium account for in the total production in a car? 1% maybe? And therefore, if there is an increase, and if we say that the entire increase falls on account of this, 1% of this 10 lakhs is roughly, we are talking of 1,000 rupees. That is not really going to hurt the car market. And yet, at the same time, it is being sourced from the domestic supply. So, whether we talk of we're talking of the renewables, right? And with the solar panels, etc., aluminum becomes an important ingredient. So, and when we are talking about, I think it is some 250 gigawatts expansion capacity that we are thinking of immediately. I think 238, 250 has already been achieved. Uh, Correct me for those numbers. So for that, this becomes an important ingredient. So there is a market, but then this market has to be protected from the dumped, low priced, and also lower quality imports. The second is obviously, I mean, the BIS norms, because what we understand is that the Indian aluminum is better in quality, but because those are not are able to penetrate the domestic market and the external dump units are not able to comply. While the European economies are talking about the ESG standards, so obviously, raising the import duties and imposing BIS standards, whether that it is non-hazardous or whether it can help because if you improve the BI standards, obviously the Indian domestic manufacturers of aluminium will be able to penetrate the domestic market.
What are the other measures do you think the government needs to take to help the domestic aluminium sector?
It would be broadly two or three. One is to reduce the freight costs. I mean, that's a very specific ask that I'm putting. Because from coal is an important ingredient, right? And right now, coal is in a lower priority list. If I'm electricity, access to electricity, therefore, that power thing has to be rationalized. So, at the domestic level, one has to one has to look at the cost reduction strategies, which could mean policy interventions so as to increase the priority, reduce the cost, a more holistic approach kind of thing would be critical. And my last thing would be perhaps a lot of regulatory changes are being eased out. One of the recent one that has come yesterday is in terms of the labor code that has been finally announced last evening, and the industry is definitely likely to benefit from it, so that there are only four broad labor codes, so not beyond, not be caught within the 29 compliances. Similar things in terms of clearances for industry, for setting up refineries, for setting up waste segregation. I think the single window scheme or the single door schemes, those have to be more closely looked at. What does it actually mean to have a single window? And one of the things as a student of economics is reducing the transaction cost. The investor is wanting to let the ball start rolling. It would be important that one reduces the transaction cost loss increases on account of the waiting for these approvals. So I think it's all about the processes within the policies. One is talking about how to hasten the process, accelerate the process of for the aluminum manufacturers and the industry quickly start gaining. I mean, the time is too short because it takes time to set up a unit and then start production before you hit the break-even point to start making profits. And the profits are going to be definitely shared across the factors of production. That's what my brief thinking is.
Thank you very much for your insightful views. We hope our viewers have benefited from this. That's it for now. Keep smiling and be happy. This is Subramani Ra Mancombu signing off until we meet in our next episode. Good luck.